What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Table Talk. My name is Walker. This is Ashlyn. We are your hosts, as always, and we are so happy to have with us today two of our good friends at our own table in our dining room. We have Jacob and Emily Moore. We have known them for upwards of 4 years now. Been in the same couples life group for 3 to 4. We started in the couples life group. We've been in D groups together. Mm-hmm. Wives and husbands been in both D groups together. Have done a ton of life together, as well as a large group of our friends. And we are very excited to have them on to just really talk about what's been going on in their lives recently and about marriage matters as a whole, which is really the whole reason why we're doing this at all. So let's go ahead and get into it. Would you please introduce yourselves as a couple, as our friends, how long you've been married, how you met, just a synopsis of your story.
Love to.
Yeah. Well, I'm Emily, and you're Jacob.
That's me. I'm Jacob.
We met in 2019 in college, and so we had both known each other, or at least knew who each other were all through college, but hadn't ever spoken a word to each other until senior year, and I just decided to go introduce myself to him at an event that was on campus and just walked right up and said, "Hi, I'm Emily." And
That's so progressive.
She introduced herself to me, but then that put the ball in my court, and then she proceeded to reject me twice before finally agreeing to go out on a date with me.
The timing just wasn't right.
The timing wasn't right, but hey, it worked out, and here we are now.
Yes. And so we'll be married 4 years this year, about to celebrate the 4th, and yeah, it's been great.
And work. What is the work situation in the Moore's household?
Well, she brings home all the dough.
Yeah, I wish. I'm a first grade teacher, and so I've been doing that. This is year 6. We started just a few weeks ago, and so that seems crazy. We were talking just the other night. He was with me the night I got the call for my first job, and I feel like that was just the other day, and now we're year 6. So.
Yep. And I don't really know how to describe what I do. I do a little bit of selling, Polaris ATVs, UTVs. I do a little bit of managing. I do a little bit of customer relations, whatever is needed to be done.
Customer relations is an awesome way
Customer relations at the family business.
Would you like to give a shameless plug? You are very
Please.
Shout out Harold Implement Company, Corning, Arkansas. You know where to reach me. I'll drop the link in the bio.
We got something else we'll plug later. I don't know when this is coming out, but there is an event that happens in Corning every year and has for the past 42 years-ish?
38?
I'll call it
39?
Close.
42?
We can round that. 42.
It's several years in a row, and we're excited for it.
Yeah,
Best day of the
awesome.
fall.
So we will plug that in, I promise. But I want to get into the first real question that we've got, which brings us back to marriage matters. So we had Tony and Amy on for our first episode and talked through them about what they do and how qualified they are to talk to couples of all ages. And us, we all went on a first guinea pig retreat with them and went through DISC and took tests, and they treated us like kings and queens while we were there.
It was
Truly.
Marriage Matters before we knew what Marriage Matters was.
Exactly.
That's right. They didn't tell us until afterwards that we were the guinea pigs for that. But we all had a good time. But they had talked to us for months and months and months about being a part of it in this sense of doing a podcast, and Ashlyn and I helping out with kind of spearheading what it would look like to do a workshop or a conference or a retreat. And then y'all were put on their hearts and they talked to y'all, but I don't know how any of that went down. So how did the Luciuses get you into this?
They got us in here. That's
Well, like you kind of mentioned, when we first got married and moved to Paragould, we knew nobody. We pretty much just moved to Paragould because it was a splitting point for our 2 jobs, driving, and kind of thought we'd be here for a short period of time and we'd move on to somewhere else. And we ended up really liking it, falling in love with our church, things like that. but we didn't really have a community of people our age and didn't really know where we fit. And so we joined the Young Couples Life group, and when we did, I think we knew one couple of friends that were going with us.
Yeah, and I was reluctant about going. I didn't. She kind of drugged me there.
I
but
pretty
it
much
was-
forced him to go. I was like, no, we're going.
I was super nervous. I mean, I
Yeah.
like talking and hanging out with people, but I didn't really know a soul, and so it was. I'm glad she did.
Yeah. I think ever since then, though, Tony and Amy have kind of evolved into like a parental set of people in our lives and just a second set of parents for us, but also in a mentor type of way where we just feel really loved and guided by them, and we're very much inspired by their marriage.
Definitely,
I mean, they've been
definitely.
married so long and have seen so much life, and I think having kids that are our age helps put things in perspective for them too as to what season we're in. And so it's just been really cool having them in our lives to kind of guide the way. And so when they brought up the idea of Marriage Matters, we were all in from the get-go. And we had kind of been praying through what the next steps of our life and marriage together look like, whether different groups it would be or different things. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I feel like we just kind of knew that was for us.
Yeah, because Tony and Amy have the biggest heart, and whenever they put their mind and heart towards something, you know that they're all in. And so we were excited to just
Yeah.
jump on the bus. So
Makes you want to be a part of
yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. So here we are.
And you know, we don't know any more than you do about your role. What is y'all's role? Because it makes me laugh thinking about it. But the role that y'all have been, because I love them so much and it fits them perfectly.
Okay.
What have they told you that your role is for, these?
That's a good question. Well, our role from a 30,000 foot view is event planner, coordinator, coming up with things to do at retreats, just kind of putting things together, and basically, in my opinion, making sure everyone has a good time.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's what I think it is,
Pretty much.
because you gotta have a good time, or So
Or people won't want to come back.
Yeah, that's
I
it. So.
picture it as like a grown-up camp counselor.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's what it is. in
We're
my
gonna have
Which
mind.
I feel like it's just very much my entire personality.
We're gonna have a clipboard.
So-
We're gonna have a pen and a whistle, and we're gonna have a good time. So.
First
love it.
grade teacher will come out in full
Yep.
force. So
But that's funny because we do have someone in our group who looks more like a camp counselor than anyone else. And it's not one of the Moors. Shout out Colby. And Jacob even using one of his favorite catchphrases, which is from a 30,000 foot view, which I didn't know if that was a plug, but
He's ripping
I
off
picked
on
up
me.
on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everyone is so glad that y'all are a part of this, and I think that the role that y'all have been given is the perfect role for y'all's family, because I think that fits into what y'all already do for the group of friends that we have, which is everyone just wants to have a good time, and if you can help make sure everybody has a good time, you'll just do it. So I love that about y'all.
Mhm.
So, going back to jobs, I don't even remember how much we talked about this in other episodes, but the table is a big part of what we do, and that does have to do with debriefing after work and cooling down or hashing some stuff out and figuring stuff out. And that happens, and it happens right over there and not here, which would make me sit a little more comfortable over there sometimes if we could hash something out here and then go relax in the living
And
room.
for those who are just listening and not watching, he's referring to our coffee table in our living room as opposed to our dining room table.
yes.
Yeah, that is. We've had some huddles up, family huddles around the coffee table. But I want to know how the two of you typically unwind after a day, because I know teaching young students takes patience that you have. Unless there's something, I missed.
She absolutely does. I just have heard stories.
Well, sure. And I feel like
Me too.
if you don't have stories, you might not be doing it right.
True.
But teaching is not easy. Teaching young children is not easy. And dealing with sales and maintenance and selling and just the public in a bigger retail sense adds a lot of stresses and pressure. So what does it look like when y'all get home?
Well, I'm glad
That's a good
I'm glad
question.
you asked that, because my day, speaking on my days, it's lots of, like I said earlier, customer relations. I'm on the phone a lot. I'm talking to customers, employees, different brands, and just trying to make sure everything is going smoothly. And it's a lot, and it's a lot of stuff through my phone. And so when I get home at the end of the day, my phone is still on, and that means sometimes I'm getting phone calls, texts, whatever. But at some point, you have to draw the line. And so it's a work in progress. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but one thing I've implemented here lately is when I get home, I toss my phone into the other room, and then I try not to think about it. And then I go, because I only have a few hours to spend with Emily, before we're tired and have to go to bed and do it all again the next day. And so I try to, when I put my phone in the other room, I try to say that is that, we'll put that to rest, let's live our home life. And so I try to flip the switch off, flip the switch on at home, because I don't want to give Emily my worst if I gave my best at work today. So I want to give her my best. And that's kind of one thing I do when I get home is I put that aside, focus on Emily, our home, our friends, whatever we're doing that evening, whether it's hanging out or cooking or watching Netflix,
Yeah. And I think he's really helped me do the same, because especially if someone says they had a great first year of teaching, I think they're just lying, because I think everyone's just figuring it out and no one knows what they're doing. And so the first year I taught, we were engaged, and so he was still just dealing with the crazy, and so he has seen the whole roller coaster of things.
She baked me a cake one time that said sorry for being crazy.
I did do that. There are pictures to prove it.
It was good stuff.
It was a crazy season of life. But I think over time, and he has helped me kind of see this too, just like you said, you do have to draw the line somewhere, because other people aren't going to draw it for you. And people are just going to expect the ball to keep rolling. And so if you want any sense of sanity and security, of peace when you get home, you kind of just have to be selfish with your time a little bit. And so I try my hardest now, especially, to not bring work home with me, whether that's leaving my laptop and everything at school. I've tried a lot lately, especially this last year. I mean, I have my email on my phone, because at school I always have it with me just for emergencies. But on the weekends, people start sending stuff on Sundays. I'm like, it is still our weekend. It is still our day of rest. And so I just close them out and I don't read them till Monday. And so trying to draw that line of, nope, this is our time. This is the only time we get together. Especially, he works a lot of Saturdays, and so we'll only get Saturday afternoon, evening, and Sunday. And so to me, those are kind of sacred times, and so I don't want to ruin them or an evening with work that I could do the next day. So.
Sure.
That sounds familiar.
Is that a jab?
Well, we went through a season where, with what you do for work, there were times when you would say you felt like you weren't working enough or doing enough if you weren't responding to emails
After hours.
After hours, but it would be, and they would get sent by higher ups and be like, this is important, but it'd be like 9 o'clock or 6 a.m. And there were times that you would just be like, I've got to do this, because if I don't do this, who will? But you ended up.
I had to draw a line as
Yeah,
well.
it's tough, but it's going to be there tomorrow.
It will be, absolutely. And he had to help. He's nodding.
That's
because
true.
He's like, I told her time and time again, but I'm a little stubborn. And so it took me a little bit to understand that and to just take what he was saying and really put our relationship first, because work was coming first in a lot of ways. And so ever since then, it's been really nice to draw the line and have that boundary. Not to say it's not hard some days, because there are still things that loom, and like it's like, oh, it would feel so good just to check that off the list. But knowing, our relationship is more important, so I love hearing that from y'all. It's encouraging.
I've got, I just thought of it as you were talking, like a bonus question about teaching, and then I added a bonus question that I'm going to have Ashlyn ask you. So we'll do
I can't wait.
So-
This is a surprise to me.
Let's go.
I've heard from people who teach, especially in the elementary schools, what do you think about this may be a complete dud. This may be crazy.
I'm scared.
Teachers that show up at 8, leave at 3. Like,
Ours are a little different than that, but
show up, I don't know, when the first grade bell rings.
I don't even either. I don't either.
So
He just
when
knows
I
when to
went
bring
to-
me coffee.
You want me to say what? Mine was 7:55 a.m. to 3:33 p.m.
Mine is 7:50 to 3:10 for kids, but I have to be there 7:30 to 3:30. And most days, granted not the first couple weeks of school, but most days I am a 7:28 to a 3:32 type of gal. And when I say I leave it on my table with a to-do list, now I am a live by the to-do list person, so I will sit down and make myself a list for the next day so I don't forget. But I leave it. I am that person. Now I know a lot of people that get there an hour early and stay 2 hours late, and I used to be that girl, but I also felt crazy the whole time.
Sure.
So I like the new hours a lot better. I think Jacob does too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
and, you know, they're your contract hours. So.
Exactly. I'm getting paid for those hours only.
Great. So I didn't want to be the one to bring this up.
Uh-oh.
I can't wait.
I didn't want to be the one. So if you just want to get him that one right there at the very bottom.
Ooh, this is a good question.
All right.
So, Jacob,
Yes.
how do Oreos fit into the after work cool down, and how did that start?
Oh,
All right.
no.
So Oreos. I don't know if they were God's cookie, but if God had a cookie, it would be an Oreo. The original Oreo, not double stuff. The
Amen.
original
Original.
Oreo.
Amen.
Oreo was made. The original Oreo was made with that in mind. This is the cookie to be
Well,
made.
because let me tell you, I tried to be cute wife when we first got married to buy him the holiday Oreos and the double stuff, and he absolutely lost his mind.
I love her, but no. So Oreos are just a little treat that I started eating with my brother back many years ago, and we would eat Oreos and watch movies. And whenever Emily and I got married, I'm like, I think we should keep Oreos in our house. And so started eating some more Oreos, and then more Oreos, and then I think I ate Oreos almost every night of the week.
Normally
And-
sending a picture to his brother, who then proceeds to send one back of him eating Oreos too. So their
But-
tradition continues.
But after work, you've had a long day. When we get home, we spend time together. We try to stay outside. We try to exercise if possible. After all of that, there's just something about kicking your feet up, popping on the TV, getting a cup of milk, 4 to 5 Oreos.
Or 12.
Or 12, yeah. We're trying to limit myself.
Depends how hard the day was.
But it's just a good old cap to the day. So yes, great question. Oreos, top notch.
What's the most in one sitting that Emily has allowed you?
No, so in my older years, I'm only 27. But anyway, in my older years, I do try to limit myself. But I remember back in the day, me and my brother would put down a whole package together, a whole package, often, multiple times a week.
Your poor mom.
But now
That's
Emily,
around 30 Oreos a piece, probably.
yeah, it's a bunch. It's for real. But Emily, she keeps me healthy, and she cooks good dinners a lot. And so Oreos, we cap it at 5 because it's every night of the week. But
Love it.
If I feel like it would have been a disservice to people listening to have Yolanda not talk about Oreos.
I'm glad you brought it up. It's one of the life's sweeter things.
Literally.
Yeah, really.
So we're going to take a turn into something that has been going on with the close-knit group of friends that we have that have spent so much time together over the last few years, and some of us over a decade, and some that have been childhood friends that we just kind of, crashed the party into that and kind of just wedged our way in the group. So in our group over the past 4 years or so, there have been a lot of just struggles with fertility, with having kids or miscarriages, and that is not excluding the two of you. And us being in, and I made sure that I asked you before bringing any of this up, because it is a sensitive topic and it's hard, but it's real. And us being in D groups together, there have been prayers after prayers after prayers, and just so much given up to the Lord over these things for so many people that we know. And I wanted to hand it over to the two of you to, now that you have received the blessing recently of being pregnant and just recently announcing that it is a little girl,
Crazy.
to the surprise
About that.
of both of y'all. We just saw
about
the
that?
video.
Yes.
And everybody else.
And everybody else. Everyone was most certainly thinking boy.
Yes.
But I wanted to give y'all the time and the platform to share with us like the real thoughts and feelings that you two personally had in the season of the struggle, and what it was like to see all of these prayers come to fruition in an answer to be where you are now.
I love that question.
It's packed. I feel like there's a lot of things that kind of go with it. But I think in the middle of it, that's something that you hear about, but you just really don't think will ever happen to you. Probably gonna cry. That's okay. But tears are welcome. But when it did happen, we weren't really trying necessarily, and so we were kind of surprised that it had happened. And so, when you're shocked about something, it takes a little bit to adjust, but then you get really excited. And so we'd kept it to ourselves. We'd only told one friend who was kind of helping us with the medical side of things. And so through the process, once we kind of started to figure out that things weren't going well, it was almost like getting a gift and then getting it yanked away. And so it was just really a tough season. And it was right at Christmas, and so it was just a weird time. Like, honestly, looking back, it's a little foggy for me in parts of it. But I don't know. I feel like the only thing that got us through that was just prayer, because we did not know, at least speaking for me, like, we didn't know how to handle that. We didn't know how to even approach it. And so
no one prepares you.
No one prepares you for
things
that,
like that.
And so it was just a lot of leaning on the Lord and just trusting that we don't understand why this is happening or why it's being allowed, but we know that in the end something good has to come out of it. And so it was a very painful season, but it also, I think, made me realize just how blessed we are with the community that we have and the community that the Lord has given us here, just with, like you said, our D groups and our life groups, and then our families and friends, like just the amount of people that rallied with us and prayed for us and just showed up in the most unexpected ways. And so now, looking back, like, there are still hard days. There's still days that I'm like, I wonder about the first one. But now, with our little girl on the way, like, it's just kind of a sweet season, and seeing how the Lord has answered not only our prayers, but the prayers of so many friends at the same time has been so sweet, and just an added little glimmer of just how faithful the Lord is.
Definitely. And like piggybacking off what she said, it was a tough time, but I feel like it was tough for her in one way and tough for me in another way, because I wasn't the one carrying the baby, and so I have to look at her, and Emily is happy all the time and just always smiling and lights up a room, and then during this time it was not very happy, and so I didn't know what to do. I'm not saying I wasn't sad. I was extremely sad, but looking at her being that way was not anything I was ever used to in our 4 years of marriage, 5 to 6 years of knowing each other. That's just not her. And so I was having a hard time trying to figure out how to navigate that and to be there for her, and then eventually just realizing she just needed me to be there. Words you can only say so much. And so that was tough. And then, like she said, you think, oh, that's not going to happen to me, but then it does, and it's just out of nowhere. And so like she said, being able to rely on the Lord during that time. I'm not going to say that there were some days where I might have been mad at God a little bit, like, like, come on, why does this happen to us? Look at Emily, she's perfect, she's an angel. How could that happen to her? But then it does, and so I think that was almost like a true test. I don't know if that's the right word to say, but almost like like God is in control, and that wasn't our time. And so it took a long time to realize that it wasn't our time. And then fast forwarding through that tough time, now with the new blessing and the little girl on the way, and get to be pregnant at the same time, like she said, with some friends, and you kind of laugh a little bit and say, okay, God, I see what you were doing there. I'm happy that this is our time, and with patience and with prayer and just surrounding ourselves with friends like you guys and the rest of our group that we speak so highly of, because we love every single one of them. It's people like that can build you up whenever you're knocked down, and definitely praying and just leaning on the Lord, because we couldn't do it on our own. And then, but throughout that time, I feel like it did help us, because we could rely on each other whenever we needed each other, and I feel like that helped our relationship grow, and just really getting to focus on us time.
Right.
We spent more time, we were like, well, it's just us again, let's go on a trip, so we got to do a couple of little trips, just us two, and just kind of get away and put the phones down and see some places we haven't seen before, and just focus on us. And it really helped our marriage, I feel like, honestly, bring it up until now.
It gave us, I think, an even more solid foundation to start a family with eventually. So
because up until then, everything was going good, and then like crash, But I'm not saying we're special. I know this happens to lots of people. I'm not saying our story's any different or better than anyone else's, because I know it happens every day,
but it's still y'all's story.
It is,
and it's
it is.
unique, no matter even if it does happen more often than we even want to talk about. But it's still your unique story. And Jacob, you said something. You said even you didn't always have the words to share with Emily, and see, I'm gonna cry too. Because it's hard to be a friend, to watch your friends struggle like that. So what would you tell people of, like, if they have friends going through this, like, what would you want them to know? Like, this is helpful or this is not helpful? Like, what would you want them to know, even when you were like, sometimes I didn't even have the words for my own life? What would you want to share?
Just like I said, the words are hard to find, and sometimes you can say something and they're not going to like it. But I'm not speaking from experience or anything.
I'm sure that did not happen.
But honestly, just showing up and being present, with someone. Actually, you brought me orange flavored LaCroix sparkling water.
They were supposed to be tangerine,
and
it became his new.
And they were supposed
flavor.
to be tangerine, which is my favorite flavor. She brought me orange, and that got me hooked on orange. Sorry, not tangerine. Orange LaCroix.
Yeah.
And that right there meant the world to me, that you would just think of us and just a small little gift, just being present and saying, hey, I'm here for you. Those simple words, I'm here for you, could speak volumes to anyone.
That means a lot. Like you said, words are hard to just put into the right string for emotions like that. And I feel like you want to convey words correctly, but I couldn't even figure out words to tell myself that meant what I needed them to mean. And so just the showing up. And I know we've talked about this with a lot of our friends, like, we are all such independent, like, we don't want anybody to be put out, and so we just take care of things on our own. And so a lot of times, like, instead of the asking, like, what can I do for you, you just have to do something. Like, you didn't give me a choice, you just said, hey, I'm coming over at this time. If you don't want to let me in, I'll leave it on the porch, but I'll be here. And so many friends did that. They didn't give me a choice. And honestly, at the time, my mind was all over the place. I didn't want to make choices anyways, and so not having to make a choice and just being told this is happening, pick porch, or if you want me to come in, just leave the door unlocked. And so that just meant so much to us, and just knowing like we were loved in those ways was really special.
That is very funny the way that you said almost like all of the wives and fiancés that are in our group are very independent women, which fine by me, because I tell you what, I will straight up ask every one of these guys for help at any time. We're moving pianos, we're going to play pickleball, we're going to do something. Everyone, our group chat stays going. What are we? So like, what are we doing? So what are we doing? And y'all are like, I'm just gonna do whatever. If y'all want to come over, y'all better come, because I'm not going anywhere. So, that was a great question about friends being there for people in those times. What would be a way, or what's something you would tell others that are going through the situation you did go through? How would you encourage them in the season they're in? What is something you would, or something to encourage them?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I would just remind them that like they're not in it alone. And I think in our society, it is kind of like a taboo thing. Like people don't talk about it very much, but it is happening so often. And so almost certainly somebody that you know, if you are going through this, has either been through it before or might be walking through it with you. And so finding people to talk to about it that have either been there in your shoes before, or even just friends who are great listeners, like just getting those words out and not holding them inside, even if you don't understand your feelings about it, like that's okay, because I feel like you can feel the entire roller coaster of emotions, and I feel like that's kind of part of the healing process, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I mean, there's still days you struggle with it, even months later, and I think just knowing that the Lord is still there for you, like he hasn't given up on you. And even like Jacob said, when you might be questioning him or wondering why, like he allows that, like you're allowed to ask those questions, you know, and it doesn't make him love you any less, but he welcomes that and welcomes you getting all those feelings out too. And so just keeping him at the forefront of just your path and leaning on him, I think, is the ultimate advice.
I feel like asking God why is okay. Like why did this happen?
You think he can handle it?
if he can, yes, he for sure can. I love that. Shout out Blake. But like, just leaning on him, and like I said earlier, you know, I spent a couple of days where I was borderline, just like mad, like why? And then I feel like it's okay to ask why, as long as you're communicating with God. Like, just keep praying, and eventually, in our case, roughly, 8-9 months later, my question was answered. Why? Because it wasn't your time. You know, now's your time. And so it's hard, because God can give and he can take away, and so you just have to be on his timing, I guess. And that was the hardest part for me, because I like everything to be on my time. I'm very like, well, I had this planned out and I wanted this to happen here, and then it didn't. And so I was like short circuiting, like this derailed and I didn't know what to do, and like, why is this happening? But then if you can just take a step back, take a breath, enjoy the present, enjoy what you got going on at that time, I feel like your prayers are going to be answered in some form or fashion.
We love y'all so much.
We really do.
And thank you for being willing to share that, which y'all have shared that with individuals, but being willing to share that on a platform where, you know, anyone can hear it is awesome. And I just appreciate y'all for being willing to speak on those things. You made mention, Jacob, of during this time when y'all were focusing on yourselves and just wanting to rekindle just like the path y'all were on together, that y'all would take trips and see some places you hadn't seen before.
Oh yeah.
As well as being the camp counselors for Marriage Matters. Everyone, we've got some travelers in the group, but y'all are travelers, and y'all love it,
We
Love
do
it.
love it.
and
Absolutely.
y'all been to a lot of places.
Mhm.
So, where is y'all's most favorite place you have traveled? It might be different answers
So how long do we have?
until I've got to reset that camera.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
I love this question.
Traveling is our favorite thing. Oh, I don't know how to pick a favorite.
There's a
though.
big world out there, let me
Yes.
tell you. I know you guys have been around it. So,
And there's
True.
so many places we
Yeah.
still want to see.
yeah, there's a lot of places to see and do. But where's your favorite place?
Okay. I think for me, out of all the trips that we've taken together, my favorites would be closely tied. And I think this too has to do with just the whole ambiance of the trip and just the memories of it in general, which I think can play a key role in whether you really like a place or not, would either be an anniversary trip that we took to Niagara Falls,
Oh,
which
yes.
was like a red eye, barely made our flights, landed in New York, barely made it into Canada type of 2.5 days.
Awesome.
But we loved every second, and it was just beautiful. Like one of those places that took your breath away that it existed. Or,
And we walked 40 miles in
and we walked
3
40
days.
miles.
Up-
Yeah.
Made it to Toronto and
Yes, that was a wild time.
You walked to Toronto.
no.
No,
Well, that'd
that
been wild,
would be
huh?
really bad.
That'd
no.
have been cool.
I wouldn't put it past us though.
Okay.
Or out west, which I know encompasses a lot of different area. So specifically, if I had to choose, probably like just Utah, all the Utah national parks. So Zion and Arches and
That was cool.
all of those. They seem otherworldly.
Those are dream places for me.
Yes, they're
It's
beautiful.
very neat. We like to hike too, and so a lot of the destinations we try to hit are national parks. And I mean, like we were saying, there's a big world, and there's some cool places to see, and most of them are in a national park. That's a good thing. Shout out U.S. government for protecting that land. But like all the national parks that we've seen, we've got a little checklist that we're trying to scratch. It's like a little scratch off that you
Yeah.
can get through the national park. We're trying to fill that page up. But here this year, which is not like me, we went to a couple of cities on a little trip. I'm a big Cardinals fan, if you know. They're not doing too good this year, but I'm a big Cardinals fan.
They die hard till the end.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I want to go to every MLB stadium, and I like to catch the Cardinals there. Well, what better place to watch a game than at Wrigley Field in Chicago? And so Emily and I went up, spend the weekend. I guess it was Thursday through Sunday in Chicago, and we did every touristy thing that you're supposed to do,
Yes.
which is what we typically
Did
do.
you see the bean?
We saw it was under construction when we were
We
there.
saw it through a construction fence.
But
But
that
we
was
still saw it.
we still saw it.
Still took a selfie.
But that was one of those where we walk out of the hotel and we walk all day, and I think we had another 40 miles walked, and we got to do. It was just neat because it was just us two on the trip. We didn't really we had an agenda, but we kind of just
A
got
loose
to.
agenda.
It was a loose agenda, but it was Emily and I and coffee is what really got us through that. And we had
Right.
lots of good coffee.
Yes.
But it's just neat just seeing, the scenery of the land, but then going to a city and seeing the fast pace. I don't know. It's just two different deals, and that was one of my favorite trips of this year. We got to do because we just got to see all the touristy things that there is to see there, and it was nice because it was just me and her, and I don't know why that's one of the top trips on my
It was
list,
fun.
but it was a nice one.
I've got a secret question.
I'm
Oh,
s-
no.
I can't wait.
One that I purposefully didn't send you. And I want to preface this by saying that I love my family,
Uh-oh.
and I love Ashlyn's family, and Ashlyn loves her family, and to the best of my knowledge, she loves my family. There is word on the streets about vacations that the Moores have went on with family members, and I just want to know your general thoughts on how itineraries work, or places that you go and eat. Like, where, if I was driving out west for a 2-week vacation, where would I want to eat? Or,
this is a good
you
one.
know, things of that nature. Like, how does if you've ever done it.
I'm glad you
Traveled
asked.
with family.
Walker, I'm glad you asked.
I'm also the
So-
bus driver, and I think you're standing right in front of me.
So, that's a good question. My family, I love them to death, and I hope they get to see this.
Clip that.
We love you.
But my dad is the king of vacation itineraries,
And he is good at
and
it.
he is super good at it, and he saves them, and I'm trying to get him to sell them. They're so good.
He could make a
He should.
killing on
He's
it.
down to the minute. I mean, you're waking up at 6:15. You're going to bed. He goes to bed early. You're going to bed at 9:00. But all day long is action packed, and his itineraries. He has every meal planned, and he's a big fan of Cracker Barrel.
Side note, I do love Cracker Barrel,
And so,
but I also love to eat at local places.
so Emily and I like to eat at local places. He likes to eat at Cracker Barrel. Well, that's two differing opinions. So
Very
we
much
learned
so.
very quickly that we take our own car. So when we go on road trips, we take our own car. And that has kept the sanity of the trips, right?
Yeah, we can eat at Cracker Barrel and some other places.
Yeah. But it's funny. We drove, I think we were headed out to Utah or something a couple years ago, and we drove 10 hours or 9 hours, I forgot the time, to Amarillo was our stop before we could finish out the trip. And they have a huge restaurant there called the Big Texan. And
Home of the
72-ounce steak.
Yes.
And I looked at Emily and I said, I hope we're going to the Big Texan. Even if I don't get the big steak, it'll still be cool. And we can see the signs on the billboards, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're going there. We're going to make it. And then we turn off at the exit to the Big Texan. I
Jacob
tell
is
Emily,
so excited.
and Emily's excited too. And I said, we're going to the Big Texan. I can't believe Danny's going there. Right next door to the Big Texan
No.
at Cracker Barrel. And we pulled in there, 10 hours of driving, and we sit down and we have Cracker Barrel dinner.
Mama's French toast breakfast.
Oh, man, the old timers. Oh. But we made it. And we went to the Big Texan the next year.
There we go.
Good memes.
Love to hear it.
Yep.
I am so glad. I thought that whole question was going to be sullied because I knew Utah was going to be in one of your like best, because we've seen pictures and heard stories of how awesome it was, and we would love to get out there. And in the back of my head, I was going, don't say anything about the family trip. Don't say anything about the family trip, because we loved hearing about it. And because in preparation for your trips, y'all would have the itinerary, like already have it. Is it laminated?
It's not laminated, and I think it's only because my dad doesn't own a laminator.
Yeah. But he does
Christmas
have them
gift.
all saved in files on his computer.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I really wish he would sell
They're
them.
well done. I promise
TBA
you.
on that.
They're well done.
Very much research put into it.
I believe.
I wish I had that much.
We'd buy one.
willpower.
Yeah, we could use that
Sold.
for sure. And something else that I just found funny when I was writing up these questions was because I was thinking about how much y'all love being around friends.
Love it.
And when you're driving 17 hours out west, you can't be two places at once. And it made me think of when y'all are traveling, at least I know for a fact that Jacob will come back and be like, I know we were in Vegas for a workshop or for a Polaris event, but I heard that y'all were going over to Colby's house, and I was like,
Yeah.
We
dang.
have really bad FOMO.
I did have some FOMO.
It's a problem.
I think Emily can speak the same. We love a friend gathering, a cookout, pickleball, just
Sitting on the couch doing
just
nothing.
hanging
We
out,
just want
just
to be with
anything.
people.
Yeah, because we were there was nothing planned. It was just everybody met at one person's house, and when we saw you on Sunday, you went, man, I can't believe we missed being over there at their house. And I was like, weren't you in Las Vegas, like just getting to hang out in between like meetings and stuff like that? And you're like, yeah, but y'all
friends.
were all hanging
I
out.
was getting the text
Our
messages
people.
in the group like, "Hey, what time y'all coming over? Are we bringing desserts? What we doing? We hanging? We playing games?" And I was like, "Man,
He's like, I love games.
we got to get home."
When's the next flight? Can we get out of here, please? So we are about to wrap this thing up.
Mhm.
So once again, thank y'all so much. I know you were nervous
Just
before,
a little bit.
but that's fine. That's fine if you haven't done it before. This is Ashley and I had talked before we started this, and she was like, all the podcasts I listen to have like one question that's the same, like a wrap-up question or a question
That's
they
true.
always ask everybody. So with this being the Table Talk podcast, I was like, and this is the first time we're asking this, so you are actually the first guinea pig. You are our guinea pigs for this last question, which, if you don't know, listener or viewer, the table is not just the kitchen table. And we've got an episode with Tony and Amy Lucius that they didn't make it up. They aren't the first people to ever think about sitting around the table and having meaningful conversations. But they have instilled that in their lives, and we look up to them a lot. And the table for them is anywhere that you can stop, slow down, and have meaningful conversations with anybody. But for us, it is typically our spouse. So I want to ask y'all, where is your table? And if you don't have one, where do you want your table to be?
It's a good question.
Well, I think in general, we do spend a lot of time kind of around either our table or just the two of us, our couch, for meaningful conversations. But we spend as much time outside as possible as soon as we get home. And so I think just in this season lately, our quote table has been walking up and down our roads. So honestly, just our little cul-de-sac and around the pond at the end, that road just holds a lot of conversations for us, and it allows us to just get out and have no distractions. We'll leave our phones inside, and normally by the time we get home, the sun's starting to set, and so it just kind of sets the whole tone for being able to have those unguarded conversations. So.
Vaughn Drive. That's our road. I love it. Like she says, we're a sucker for a good sunset. And here lately, when the weather's not been 95 degrees, like today, crisp, I think it was a high of 80. We were real sad we didn't go on our after work walk.
Sorry.
But, hey, it happens. But like she said, that's been nice, because just spending time outside, because we both work inside and we have a little bit of breaks outside, but just coming home and being outside, and like she said, leaving our phones inside and just talking, how was your day? Simple questions like that. And
There's something about side by side too.
It
Just
is,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Get to be side by
Yeah.
side with one another.
and being active, getting the blood flowing just a little bit.
And if you need to run away from whatever conversation you're having, you can just book it back to
You
the
can just
house.
That's
book it.
exactly right.
Because I probably won't try to catch up, and so I'll just meet you there.
But we've even had this little neighborhood dog join us on our walks lately, and it's just making them that much more wholesome. We even named him. We don't know his name, but we named him Jimmy Dean because Jimmy Dean makes
We love him.
Jimmy Dean makes a good
I
breakfast
kind of want him to
sandwich.
come live with us.
Oh,
I don't know about all that.
Emily's gonna steal the neighbor's dog. Everybody.
Yeah.
Back that up a little bit. But no, just walking, just being outside, and like she said, quote, our table is right now. It's going to change. Hopefully, it'll be change to an actual table. When our little girl arrives and whenever they can start talking.
Yeah.
Which they're not going to.
We do want to have
talking right
those
away.
family meals and stuff like that. I know we both grew up with that as a priority in our homes, and so we would like to instill that. But I think it's important to know, those conversations don't have to just happen at the table. And
Absolutely.
so I think different days, different seasons, different times of the work life, they might look different. So.
Just as long as we're together, I guess you can say our tables wherever we are.
that's right. Yeah, you now have the most unusual answer as the first people we've actually asked
Yeah.
this.
Let's go.
As where's your table? And it's like, when we walk.
Yeah, that's
Jimmy Dean.
Jimmy Dean
Our
on
nightly
Vaughn
walks
Drive.
with Jimmy Dean.
Yep.
Jimmy Dean on Vaughn Drive.
Love it.
Well,
Love it.
I know that's all the questions I had for you. thank y'all so much for doing this with us and being a part of this. And listener, viewer, thank you so much for watching and listening. We appreciate you. Please, if you like what you've heard, leave a like and a comment down below and subscribe to the Marriage Matters YouTube channel. From our table this week to wherever yours is, thank you so much for listening and watching. We will see you in the next one.